Taliban has said it will allow those with proper documentation to travel once commercial flights resume. But from now on, those who fear them are more likely to leave by land. Pakistan and Iran already host the vast majority of the world's 2.5 million...
Airport complex, Taliban fire into the air to control the swelling crowd. Inside, where the US...
Good evening. An announcement on the future of Australia's nuclear submarine project may be just days away. As Prime Minister Anthony Albanese left for an official visit to India, he also confirmed he will be travelling to the US for a key AUKUS meeting with President Joe Biden.
Hey, how you going?
Taking the show on the road to secure the deal of his political life.
I'll be meeting with President Biden in the United States.
That the San Diego sojourn now confirmed. The AUKUS submarine announcement.
In recent years, the Australian Strategic Policy Institute has been one of the key and strongest voices in Australia with the increasing rhetoric against China and the huge threat that China apparently presents.
We need to have an army with more hitting power and more range, and that's what these weapons will give them.
Confirming an unclassified version of the Defence Strategic Review will be released before the May budget.
The government can't hide the fact that China is both an important market and the potential aggressor that every other country in the region is worried about. And I think the acid test for government is balancing those two realities.
One of the problems with ASPI is that it's part of its charter is that it's independent of government and the defence organisation. It's supposed to be independent. So when we start having 1-2 former defence ministers sitting on the governing council, you know, you're calling into question how independent the organisation really is, particularly when it's accepting large amounts of funding from the US government as well as the Australian government. They ought to be also independent of the influence of the arms industry, because the arms industry is so closely enmeshed in this secretive relationship with governments that they can't really be prized apart. So if an organisation such as ASPI wants to maintain the perception, which is what it says in its charter, the perception as well as the reality of its independence, it needs to take heed of that and consider that perhaps being sponsored by arms industry isn't a good idea.
I can promise all Australians that our government will ensure that Defence has the resources it needs to defend our nation and deter potential aggressors.
Practically without exception, without considering the merits of that war, without considering is this really going to help peace or is it not, then we've got a lot of thinking to do about our own role, and Australia could do a lot more to promoting a more peaceful world.
Good evening. Australia is about to embark on a 3 decades-long mission to build a sovereign nuclear-powered submarine fleet, one of the most expensive programs in the nation's history. In a joint media appearance with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, the US and UK leaders have delivered public backing to share their tightly controlled nuclear capability secrets in order to make it happen. The next phase of the AUKUS Pact means Australia will buy 3 existing Virginia-class submarines from the US, pending approval from Congress, with an option to buy another 2. Australia and the UK will also work on a joint design of a new class of submarine, the next class for both countries. The cost? Up to $368 billion over the next 30 years.
America's defensive scale measured in layers of military might. Sailors adorning 3 nuclear submarines and a missile destroyer, paving the way for the leaders' podium finish.
As we stand at the inflection point in history, the United States can ask for no better partners in the Indo-Pacific, where so much of our shared future will be written.
Whatever the challenges ahead, the cause of peace and freedom that we share will prevail.
3 democracies that are coming together again to fulfill that higher purpose of maintaining freedom, peace, and security.
Light them all up. Come on, fire. Yeah, roger. Keep shooting.
I watched it on the TV. Machine guns fire towards the ground. I watched the people run. Helicopter gunship strafing the street. I watched them lining up the bodies.
You're clear. I'm just trying to find targets.
In the Baghdad heat. They say these leaks had consequences, and I must agree.
Got a bunch of bodies laying there.
When I saw them fire on the children,
All right, we got about 8 individuals.
it affected me.
Hey, request permission to
Think you're not stranger. Shed me no tear. Shed no tear. Go back to those who sent you here. We are the young they drafted out to wars their folly brought about. Albo, we're being set up by the Yanks to take the bullet, to cop it from either China or Russia, just so America can remain the top dog.
The next generation submarine to be called SSN AUKUS. The biggest single investment in Australia's defence capability in all of our history.
And it's an expensive exercise. The bill to taxpayers, analysts have been suggesting between $170 and $200 billion over the life of the program, with the full scale unveiled today forecast to be somewhere between $268 billion and $368 billion.
Honourable Prime Minister, what do you have to fly? Vital services for millions of ordinary Australians if you and Defence Minister Richard Marles opt to buy 6 to 8 nuclear-powered submarines. The price tag attached, but it will inevitably blow us in their lifetime before they have to be carefully decommissioned. Still going? Oh, you're ready.
I'm ready.
Ah, you want to stick one of those pillows down the back, please?
Sure, mate.
Albo, we used to revere our poets, and now we can't wait to shut the book on them. But these are the sensitives, They're the ones who know what we're getting up to. So we found this poem by A.D.H. Hope, one of Australia's great poets of the last century. It's called Inscription for War and was inspired by an anonymous tombstone found at the scene of the battle in ancient Greece, vastly outnumbered by the invading Persians. We are the one they drafted out to wars their follies brought about. Go tell those old men, safe in bed, we took their orders and are now dead. Albo, contemplating going to war.